Okay, I believe we're ready.
Great. So we can start with the roll call.
When I state your jurisdiction, when I call your jurisdiction, if you'll please state your name. San Mateo County,
Dave Pine.
you, San Mateo County. Atherton,
Rick DeGolia,
Belmont, Brisbane,
Colleen Mackin,
Burlingame,
Donna Colson,
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Carlos Romero,
Foster City, Half Moon Bay,
RV Rohrback,
Hillsborough,
Larry May,
Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Betsy Nash,
Millbrae,
Andrews Funk.
Pacifica,
Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Giselle Hale,
San Bruno,
Marty Medina,
San Carlos,
John Dugan.
San Mateo,
Rick Bonilla.
South San Francisco, Woodside, Director Emeritus,
Sandeep Gupta.
Director Emeritus. And we have a quorum.
okay, great. So Jan, did you want to say something before public comment?
yes, please. Chair DeGolia, before we get started, I have a couple of announcements from the staff regarding tonight's agenda. So we would like to continue to the November board meeting. Agenda item 13, approval of the audited financial statements for fiscal year 21-22, as we are waiting on the independent auditor's opinion, which we expect to be free and clear to attach to the completed financial statements included in the current board packet. We would also like to continue to the November board meeting, agenda item 19, approval of 7th amended and restated agreement between Peninsula Clean Energy Authority and Chief Executive Officer, as the contract has not yet been finalized. And then finally, agenda item 15 was erroneously listed with the wrong company name and dollar amount. Nellie sent out a correction as soon as the mistake was realized. The correct title should read White Grass Number 2 LLC for a not to exceed amount of 109 million. So if you have any questions about these, please reach out to our board clerk, Nellie Wagberg, or our general counsel, David Silberman. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, also, we have a closed session tonight for the board to meet with the subcommittee regarding our review of Jan's contract in the last year. And we're going to hold that breakout session after the CAC report, which is item number 3. So we'll take that between 3 and 4, and then the 3 PPAs will be discussed, presented by staff at one time, but we'll vote on each of them separately. But just because we have a long agenda, we've kind of managed how to handle the agenda so that the meeting won't be too long. Okay, so I want to take any public comment that anyone has. If you have a public comment, you can let us know by clicking the reactions button on the bottom of your screen and therefore raising your hand. And I don't know, Nellie, if you are aware of any. I don't see any hand up.
I also do not see any hands up.
Okay, so if I could get an action to set the agenda as advised by Jan and myself, and to approve the consent items, I would appreciate that.
So moved.
second, Romero.
Okay, thank you, Rick Bonilla and Carlos Romero. If we could do a roll call.
Last moment. Okay, when I Call your jurisdiction if you will please state your vote. San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos. Sorry. Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, and Woodside. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Next item on the agenda is the chair report. I don't have a report tonight, so we will move to the CEO report.
Thank you. I will try to keep this short because we have a long agenda tonight. So if we can go to the first slide, please. Okay, we're hiring. We are still looking for someone for a director of power resources. We have brought a recruiter on to help us for filling that position. And we are also looking for a marketing communications specialist / senior specialist to join our marketing team. Next slide, please. I wanted to announce that we are having a webinar on November 16th from 10 to 11 via Zoom for you all to learn about our new public EV fleet program. And this webinar will cover what the program's about, the free resources that we're offering, the EV fleet replacement guidance, infrastructure designs, and energy management systems. And we also have funding available to help your jurisdictions move to an EV fleet. And so we're encouraging you to have your fleet managers attend to learn about this program, and anyone else from your city or town or county who might be interested. And the registration is at this Zoom address, and we'll send, I'm sure we'll send more information to each jurisdiction before the webinar occurs. If there are any questions about that right now, we'll take those. Okay. And then one other update is that comments are due to the Public Utilities Commission next Thursday on PG&E's proposal to form a new subsidiary, Pacific Generation. And this new subsidiary will be formed, and within this subsidiary, they plan to sell up to 49.9% ownership of their utility-owned generation, except for the nuclear plant. So the assets that are being planned to be transferred to this subsidiary are 27 megawatts of hydro, 1,400 megawatts of natural gas, 100 megawatts of solar, and 1,350 megawatts of battery and pumped storage. So these are all utility-owned assets that PG&E has. It does not include any PPAs that they have with other entities. The plan is that this will be a cost of service utility regulated by the Public Utilities Commission. And PG&E claims that this will not affect the PCIA and that it will not affect rates or bundled or departed load. The sales proceeds from selling off the minority interests in these generation assets will be invested back into Pacific Gas and Electric Company, into their infrastructure for generation safety and reliability. And the rate base of these assets that they're planning to transfer is $3.5 billion. Their plan, or they hope to sell this at a multiple of this value, and they hope to complete the sale by year end 2023. So we are working with Cal CCA and will likely be submitting comments to the Public Utilities Commission about this, this new enterprise and the concerns that it brings up for us. Next slide, please. And lastly, the meetings in November are all moved up a week because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So instead of our next board meeting being on the 4th Thursday, it will be on the 3rd Thursday, so that you can enjoy Thanksgiving with your families on the 4th Thursday. So the Citizens Advisory Committee will be next week on November 3rd. Audit and Finance and Executive Committee will meet on November 7th, not on November 77th, which is the first Monday in November, and then the board on the 17th. So happy to answer any questions that anyone might have, or we'll move on.
Let me just add that the meetings in December will also be moved up 1 week in order to avoid conflicts over the 4th week during the Christmas holiday. Okay, so that's the end of your report, I take it, Jan?
Yes, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And the next item on the agenda is the Community Advisory Committee report. Cheryl, are you providing that?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Good evening, Chair DeGolia and honorable members of the board. In our Thursday, October 13th meeting, Jason Mendelson, Vice Chair, led a short discussion of highlights from the informative board retreat, focusing on the possible change in PCE's proposed delivery of 24/7 renewable energy from a goal of 100% renewable to 99%. Rafael Reyes pointed out that a 1 to 2% increase in renewable energy would produce a corresponding 10 to 12% increase in costs, or approximately $16 million. The CAC was thrilled and grateful to learn about the impressive cutting-edge work that PCE is doing and looks forward to advising on future policies and programs. We also heard from Rafael that PCE is partnering with other CCAs and successfully influencing more than half of the REACH codes in the state. He updated us on current code development in the county, including that some jurisdictions are developing them for the first time, and that Colma, Portola Valley, and San Mateo are considering existing building measures, which if passed would be a first for the county. We were encouraged to learn that using PCE and Bay Rent incentives, residents now can replace existing gas appliances with electric and not incur unreasonably high costs. We can't wait to share this with our communities and networks. Alejandro Posada gave us more details on how ratepayers can access valuable rebates for electric appliances and new 0% on-bill financing as of Monday, October 17th. Jerry Gotthaus shared the marketing team's comprehensive multimedia plan to publicize the rebate and financing programs, including a toolkit for CAC members to use in notifying our networks. Since the CPUC expects our 22-23 Integrated Resource Plan report by November 1st, Sarah Mata guided us through her analysis and results. The CPUC developed the Integrated Resource Plan to ensure California's electricity providers meet emission reduction goals and maintain reliability at the lowest cost. Sarah was pleased to report that PCE's preferred portfolio for this IRP cycle performs better than our share of statewide emissions targets. The committee was gratified that PCE considered and included our suggestions for the DEAI policy and made a recommendation that the board approve the new policy. Now we look forward to hearing about its effective implementation and integration throughout PCE. Finally, we passed a resolution recognizing Joe Fullerton, who stepped down after almost 6 years of service on the CAC, and I'd like to read just a couple paragraphs from that resolution. Whereas the Citizens Advisory Committee and Peninsula Clean Energy staff would like to formally recognize and honor Joe Fullerton's key contributions to the organization. Whereas Joe Fullerton served as an active member of the Citizens Advisory Committee since 2017, enriching discussions with his practical experience with green buildings, electrification projects, and community education. He championed workforce development in electrification as the lead of the Workforce Working Group in 2020. As a member of working groups related to education, resiliency, and distributed resources, and the role of the Citizens Advisory Committee, Joe lent his expertise to strengthen Peninsula Clean Energy and further the agency's mission across several areas. Joe also served as a liaison between PCE and the San Mateo County Community College District. Be it resolved that the Peninsula Clean Energy Citizens Advisory Committee and staff express their deep gratitude for the contributions of Joe Fullerton to the success of the organization. So what questions does anyone have for me? Right, I don't see any, so I will thank you.
I don't see any now either. And I just want to recognize the really significant contribution that Joe's made to the organization. So thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for that. And thank you for the whole report.
Okay,
Okay, so now is the time for us to do the closed session. The reason we're doing the closed session now is so that we can take care of it early and during the meeting, so we don't lose people or we don't lose attentiveness. So my understanding is that Nellie is going to, we don't have to do anything. Nellie is going to make it so that she separates everyone on the Zoom call, and those of us on the board plus David Silverman will be in a separate room, which will be our closed session room.
That is correct. And I am going to, open up the breakout room now.
Okay, so I have a screen that says join, so I think we probably have to click to join it.
You do have to join. That is correct. Sorry, not completely hands-free.
Okay, not a problem. So everyone on the board, and David, please click.
Please click join. I assume he made it in there.
And then Nellie,
Yes.
thank you. Will you be coming, I assume, coming back on when they reconvene? So we're looking at, I know we don't know how much time, but do you have a sense?
I do not have a sense of how much time they will take.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave it on in the background and we'll come back.
Yeah, if I might weigh in here, they expect it should be pretty short, so I would say possibly 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks all.
Hey, Nellie, just so you know, we're back.
Thanks for letting me know.
And when the time comes, I'll note that there's no reportable action.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, David, should you make that report now?
Yes, I will. We're back from closed session, and there is no reportable action.
Okay, great. So we are now moving back to our agenda. So I just need to move the materials I'm looking at here. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the integrated resource plan.
Okay, and Sarah will be making this presentation.
Great, thank you guys. Good evening. My name is Sarah Mata. I'm the Senior Renewable Energy Analyst and Compliance Analyst on the Power Resource team. And tonight I'll be presenting our 2022 Integrated Resource Plan. Next slide, please. We are recommending that the board approve the results of the 2022 to 2023 Integrated Resource Plan, the analysis and the submission of results as presented by staff or in a form substantially similar to that presented by staff, and delegate authority to the CEO to prepare and submit the final narrative and data templates to the CPUC by November 1st, 2022. Next slide, please. This is a preview of the topics we're going to cover tonight. Next slide, please. All right, first the background. The Integrated Resource Plan is the umbrella planning proceeding to consider all of the CPUC's electric procurement policies and programs. The goal of the IRP is to ensure that the California electric supply is safe, reliable, and affordable. Next slide, please. There are two main regulations that the IRP is implementing, SB 350 and SB 100. SB 350 was adopted in 2015 and set the renewable portfolio standard to 50% by 2030. And SB 100, adopted in 2018, accelerated the RPS standard from 50% by 2025, from 50% by 2030 to 50% by 2025 and 60% by 2030. And SB 100 also mandated a zero carbon goal for all retail electricity in California by 2045. So the IRP is the process through which the CPUC is ensuring that these goals are on track. Next slide, please. So getting a little deeper into GHG emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, the 2022 IRP is using statewide planning targets of two different scenarios. One is a 30 million metric ton or MMT for the electricity sector by 2035. And the second scenario is 25 million metric tons by 2035. You can see on the right, there's a chart that shows the trajectory from 2030 to 2045 for each of these two scenarios. The lower scenario shown in orange and the larger scenario shown in blue. These are showing the total greenhouse gas emissions for the electric sector in California for each year under the current integrated resource plan assumptions. The target ultimately is for the state to have 15 million metric tons of emissions by 2045. You might think from SB 100's language that you would expect this number to be zero, since the goal of SB 100 is to have zero emissions from the retail electricity sector, but there are other emissions in the electricity sector that are not covered by SB 100, and those add up to about 15 million metric tons in 2045. Peninsula Clean Energy has provided comments in opposition to using this target. We believe the state should use a lower target of 5 million metric tons. And you'll see later in our analysis that we are achieving a much lower emissions target for our share of the state. Next slide, please. So we have been assigned a share of these two emissions scenarios. On the left is shown the statewide goals for each scenario in different years of the planning horizon. And on the right is shown Peninsula Clean Energy's assigned greenhouse gas emissions targets. As you'll see in our analysis, we are planning to far exceed these targets and have even lower greenhouse gas emissions in our portfolio. Next slide, please. The CPUC's Integrated Resource Plan, or IRP process, is a 2-year process. In the first year, LSEs, load serving entities, including Peninsula Clean Energy, submit their individual IRPs to the CPUC. In the second year, the CPUC aggregates all of those plans and conducts production cost modeling and reliability assessment for the entire system and develops a preferred system plan. The IRP cycle was first initiated in 2018. The second reporting year was 2020, and now we're in the third reporting year, and the current plan is due November 1st, 2022. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk some specifics of what we're required to do in this year's plan. Next slide. We have to submit what's called a conforming portfolio to the CPUC. And in order to be conforming, our portfolio must meet all these bullets. So we have to use the CPUC assigned load forecast and peak load forecast. We have to meet or exceed our assigned emissions targets. And we have to meet or exceed our reliability need in all years of the planning horizon. We also have to use other assumptions consistent with the CPUC's modeling, which are extensively documented in various resources on the CPUC's website. Of course, all the documents must be complete and all of the plans must be consistent with any other state goals. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit of how the Integrated Resource Plan differs from our 24/7 analysis, which we talked a lot about last month in September. Next slide, please. The IRP that we're talking about this month is a regulatory process that is heavily prescribed by the CPUC. We have to use set assumptions, and we don't believe those assumptions always reflect the specifics of our service territory. Although the two analyses result in similar portfolios where there are differences, we think our internal 24/7 analysis, which we presented last month, is more reflective of what we'll be doing in our service territory. So this table is just summarizing a couple of the key assumptions that are different between these two processes. For example, in the load forecast for the IRP that we're discussing tonight, we have to use assigned load forecasts from the CPUC. And in that load forecast is built in specific assumptions about different aspects of our load. I want to highlight EV adoption and behind the meter solar adoption. In the CPUC's assumptions, we're required to assume moderate EV adoption, whereas in more specific to our service territory, we believe EV adoption will be very high, much higher than the statewide average and much higher than our assigned share of the statewide average in the IRP process. And behind the meter solar adoption, the CPUC forecast that is assigned to us is assuming high behind the meter solar adoption, whereas our internal forecast is for low to moderate behind the meter solar adoption, due mainly to the fact that there's not a lot of new area in our service territory for homes to be added to. We will be building up, not out. So there's not that many new roofs added to our service territory. And then finally, there are differences in how resource adequacy is handled in the two analyses. The CPUC's required assumptions are unique to the IRP process. They don't reflect the current market rules, nor do they reflect where we think the RA market is going with the new 24-hour RA framework that's been recently adopted. So all this is to say that these processes are different. We are required to do this by the CPUC. And although it's generally the same as our 24/7 analysis, there are some differences. Next slide, please. We have performed some community outreach in this IRP cycle. Next slide, please. The main form of our community outreach was working with the Citizens Advisory Committee to go over the IRP process. We also presented the preliminary results to the Executive Committee this month, and we presented the same results again to the Citizens Advisory Committee in October. Next slide, please. All right, modeling approach, next slide. For the IRP, we have developed a single conforming portfolio that exceeds our emissions targets in both of the two planning scenarios we're required to look at. Our portfolios target being 100% renewable on an annual basis, and we're also implementing our 24/7 goal at 95% on an hourly basis. And you'll recall at last month's meeting in September, we showed that 99% is really the optimal place that we're hoping to implement our 24/7 goal. However, because this is a regulatory proceeding, we thought it was useful to show a slightly smaller portfolio reaching a slightly lower 24/7 goal. There is no authority for the CPUC to enforce that we build the resources we say we have in our IRP, but we are thinking ahead, what if there is possibly a change to the IRP process where we're required to build all these resources. We wanted to make sure that what we say in this plan is very achievable, so we don't necessarily risk incurring any penalties. And in this cycle, we performed all modeling, portfolio selection, and data preparation internally. Next slide, please. The modeling approach, we use the same approach we used in the 24/7 analysis that we presented last month in September. The first step, we use the match model to select our optimal portfolio. And in the second step, we do a stochastic analysis of that portfolio to determine the uncertainty and risks that that portfolio represents. Next slide, please. All right, the fun stuff. What does our portfolio look like? Here is our 2022-2023 IRP preferred portfolio. This is showing capacity of different resource types and the build out over the 12-year planning horizon. So the different colors represent different types of resources. You can see on the left, that stacked bar represents our current executed contracts as of about 2 weeks ago. And you can see over time, we're adding resources to our portfolio. And by 2035, we have over 2 gigawatts of resources in our portfolio, approximately doubling the size of our portfolio from today. We have a lot of storage, some solar, and we are adding some more wind. Next slide, please. We evaluated our portfolio's ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Our portfolio performs much better than our assigned targets. Our target in the lower scenario here, the 25 MMT, is to have 0.33 million metric tons in 2035, and our portfolio achieves 0.01 million metric tons. So far outperforming our assigned target. And I will note that these emissions calculations are all done on an hourly basis, the way we think about our 24/7 goal. So these are not annual emissions, but hourly emissions. Next slide, please. And finally, we evaluated the reliability of our portfolio using the reliability assumptions unique to the IRP. And our portfolio, the resources in our portfolio can meet our peak load needs in all years of the planning horizon. Next slide, please. All right, next slide. What do we need to submit? By November 1st, we have to submit 3 different templates to the CPUC, a narrative template, which I think is about 100 pages long at this point, a resource data template, which specifies all the resources we're adding to our portfolio, and the Clean Power System Calculator, which calculates our emissions. We redact market-sensitive information in this submission, and then we submit both confidential and public versions of all documents to the CPUC. And then we post the public versions of all the documents on our website. Next slide, please. So I think that's all I had to share. And here's just a reminder of the recommendation. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Great. If anyone has a question, click the reactions button, or you can even just speak up. But first, I just want to say, I think, Sarah, this is the first time in Peninsula Clean Energy's history that someone other than Siobhan presented the IRP. You did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, big shoes. Okay, looking for any questions or comments. While people are thinking, I'll just add, I think that your conservative use of 95% versus our targeted use of 99% was very smart. This is a regulatory proceeding and we should be conservative, and we're way ahead of their targets. So there's no reason to be more aggressive. And we can struggle all that we need to on our own to achieve our goals, but we don't need to deal with that with the PUC when their targets are so much lower. So I really appreciate that. I think that was smart.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the IRP.
Thank you, Rick. I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Sorry, I didn't get who made the second?
Second, Mackin.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Let me just make sure there's no comments from anyone. I don't see any. Okay, we can do a roll call.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, and Woodside. The motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item 14. And we have items 14, 15, and 16, which are 3 different PPAs that the Power Resources Group are going to present on together. And if someone, this is a lot of detailed information. So if someone has a comment as we go through it, don't hesitate to raise your hand, and we'll just make sure it's a good time for the presenter to take the question.
So this is going to be the Sarah show again for these 3 PPAs. So Sarah, take it away, please.
Thank you, Jan. Good evening again. So tonight I'll be presenting 3 PPAs. Chelsea negotiated one of them, but she is feeling quite under the weather tonight. So I'll be presenting her slides, and I think we can all try to tag team any questions you have. Don't feel shy about asking questions. Next slide, please. Here's a quick agenda of what we're going to go through. There's a lot of information here. We're going to cover some things collectively, and then we're going to talk about some project specifics, and then bring you each of the recommendations individually. Next slide, please. So we want to start with the 2021 RFO. Next slide. We released an RFO in November of 2021. Offers were due January 15th of 2022, and we shortlisted projects at the end of February 2022, this year. We've been working on these projects, and we're finally bringing the first set of projects to you for approval tonight. On the right, it's just a quick summary of all the offers we received in the 2021 RFO. We had over 30 participants offering us about 70 projects. And in total, there were 106 different variations of projects offered to us. The CODs ranged, or the commercial online dates for all these resources ranged from late 2022 to early 2026. 65 of the projects were in California and 5 were outside of California. So these 3 projects we'll be talking about tonight were all offered and shortlisted as part of the 2021 RFO. Next slide, please. All right, you've heard about the midterm reliability procurement mandate a couple times, and it comes into play with these projects again. Next slide, please. This is a table detailing the midterm reliability requirements specific to Peninsula Clean Energy. So there are several requirements, and we have to procure capacity to meet each of these specific requirements on specific timelines. So tonight we'll be talking about firm zero emitting resources. That's that 19 megawatts highlighted in red here. That will be met by one of the geothermal projects we're talking about tonight. And then there is a general capacity requirement of 179 megawatts total that need to come online between 2023 and 2025. And the NOVA project we'll be talking about tonight, 50 megawatts, meets those capacity requirements. Next slide, please. So we're planning for the Whitegrass geothermal project and the NOVA storage project to satisfy a portion of our requirements. Whitegrass will satisfy 5.7 megawatts of our total 19 megawatt firm clean resource obligation. 5.7 megawatts is the amount of net qualifying capacity, or the amount of RA, resource adequacy, that the 6 megawatt geothermal project can qualify for under the MTR. And the NOVA storage project will satisfy 37 megawatts of our total 179 megawatt requirement for zero emissions capacity. 37 megawatts is the amount of net qualifying capacity or resource adequacy that a 50 megawatt storage project will qualify for under the midterm reliability MTR. Next slide, please. The environmental review, next slide. The process we use for environmental review was developed working with several environmental nonprofits. What we do is we use geospatial mapping to compare project footprints with known project impact areas that have been developed by the government and by environmental nonprofits. So we look at protected areas in the federal, state, regional, and local level. Designated conservation areas, Bureau of Land Management areas of critical environmental concern, critical habitat for listed species, national, state, and county parks, and some others. Then we identify and map important habitat and habitat linkages, especially for threatened and endangered species. And we compare the project footprint to each of these areas. Next slide, please. We performed this analysis for each of these 3 projects. For the NOVA project, the project was not located in any protected area identified in our analysis. It was furthermore not identified as in an area that was not suitable for renewable energy transmission. The Whitegrass project was partially located in a protected area based on our analysis. The project is located near a riverine ecosystem. However, the project has taken care to site the wellheads and pipelines and equipment to avoid environmental impacts. Burney Creek is a small hydro project that was not located in a protected area based on our analysis. And furthermore, the Burney Creek is an existing project that is regularly inspected by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. On its last inspection, it was found to be in compliance with all of its environmental requirements. Next slide, please. All right, now we're going to get into some specifics about each of the projects, and we'll begin with NOVA. Next slide, please. The NOVA Power Bank is being developed by a company called NOVA Power, which is a subsidiary of Calpine Corporation. It's located in Riverside County, as shown in the vicinity map on the right here. It's a 4-hour lithium ion battery. The total capacity of the project is 680 megawatts, but PCE is only contracting for 50 megawatts of that. The contract term will be 15 years with a delivery start date of August 1st, 2024. And just some more background about the project site. The site previously hosted the 750 megawatt Inland Empire combined cycle gas turbine, which was decommissioned in 2019. Now the site will serve Nova Power Bank using the existing interconnection. And this project is not located in a disadvantaged community. Next slide, please. This project is contracted for under a fixed price contract with no escalation for 50 megawatts of capacity. The contract term is 15 years, as we mentioned, and Peninsula Clean Energy will be receiving the storage capacity, charging and discharging, scheduling ability, resource adequacy, and ancillary services. And we will be the scheduling coordinator. Next slide, please. The labor considerations, the project has agreed to construct the project under a project labor agreement. Next slide, please. This is a look at how we plan to use the battery. So for each month, we can see a charging profile. The x-axis is hours in a day. So this is a typical day for each month. The 0 line in the middle represents the battery resting. When the line goes above 0, it means the battery is discharging energy. And when the line goes below 0, the battery is charging. So we plan to operate this battery to charge in the middle of the day when our portfolio has excess solar, and discharge in the evening when our portfolio needs additional resources. This project will be connected to the grid, not necessarily directly connected to any renewable resource, but we will use portfolio management to charge and discharge it. Next slide, please. Okay. Now we're going to talk specifics about the Whitegrass No. 2 geothermal plant. Next slide, please. This project is being developed by Open Mountain Energy. We previously have contracted for another project developed by Open Mountain Energy through CC Power. The Whitegrass No. 2 geothermal project is located in Lyon County, Nevada. You can see on the vicinity map there. It's a 6 megawatt facility with a very high capacity factor. It's clean baseload. It's a geothermal project. So we expect it to be operating at its full output every hour of every day. The expected online date is December 31st, 2024. The project will use union labor when it is available. And as we mentioned before, the project is partially located in a protected area, but is taking efforts to avoid impacts to the environmental sensitive areas. And this project is not located in a disadvantaged community. Next slide, please. This project is a fixed price per megawatt hour contract structure with a 20-year term. And we're entitled to all of the products from the facility, the energy, the renewable attribute, ancillary services, and resource adequacy. However, the project is located outside of CAISO in Nevada and will need to be imported using import rights in order to qualify for resource adequacy. Next slide, please. On the workforce side, the project has committed to using a project labor agreement or similar type of agreement to the extent that union labor is available to supply the type and quantity of skilled labor necessary to perform work in connection with the construction of the facility. This is a very similar construct to that we have with the Gonzaga Wind project. Should we take questions now or keep going? I see Pradeep has a question.
I think it's good to take question now.
Sarah, the question I had was that since this project is outside the CAISO boundary, and CAISO is going to schedule the flow on the connections, interconnections, would that be a possibility that we may not be able to use the real energy produced by the project when we are counting on it, although the project will be producing that energy, but will not be used in California? How does it work?
So I believe this project will be connected to CAISO through what's called a pseudo tie agreement. And this allows CAISO to treat the facility as if it is actually located in CAISO, even though it's not. So from like a PCC1 versus PCC2 or PCC3 perspective, it will be considered PCC1. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? If anyone has a question, please don't hesitate to ask, because this is complicated stuff. It's absolutely at the heart of our business. I don't see any other questions, Sarah.
All right, let's continue. Next slide, please. This is a look at the monthly energy generated by the facility. You can see it's a nice complement to our winter peaking load, where the generation from this project is a little bit lower in the summer and a little bit higher in the winter. However, this is a fairly small project. It's only 1.4% of our total load in 2025. Next slide, please. This is a look at the generation profile for each month. It's a pretty boring graph. It's geothermal, so it's expected to be pretty flat output. The only thing that changes is when it's hotter, the project outputs less energy, and when it's colder in the winter, the project outputs slightly more energy. Next slide, please. All right, on to the last of the three projects. So this project, next slide, please, is called the Burney Creek Hydroelectric Project. The owner is Snow Mountain Hydro LLC, which is ultimately owned by Ida West and the Public Employees Retirement System of Idaho. This is an existing project. It's located in Shasta County, not too far from the other small hydro projects we have in our portfolio. It's 3 megawatts, pretty small, but adds a nice diversity element to our portfolio. The expected energy is about 5,400 megawatt hours per year. We will be taking delivery of the project starting in January 2024. It is an existing project, as I mentioned. However, when needed, workers and supplies are sourced from the local area. As we mentioned before, it's not located in a protected area, and it's in compliance with all of its environmental regulations. And it is not located in a disadvantaged community. Next slide, please. We will be contracting for the Burney Creek project under a fixed price contract. The contract term is 15 years, and we will be entitled to all of the attributes from the facility, including the energy, the renewable attribute, ancillary services, and resource adequacy. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this project is existing and it is relatively small and doesn't require a full-time on-site operator. The project does provide some local jobs and local purchases in the Burney and Redding areas. The work and supply are sourced primarily from the local Shasta County and Redding area. Next slide, please. This is again a look at the monthly energy generation expected from the project. This project is highly dependent on when there is water flowing in the river. So you can see the generation is highest in the late winter and spring months, and then very low or even zero in the summer and the fall. And this project is quite small, less than 0.2% of our total load in 2025. Next slide, please. Similar to geothermal. Oh, Pradeep, did you have a question?
Yeah, the question I had was that, so it is run of the river project. There's no storage behind that project, right?
That's right. This project is pretty cool in that it doesn't have any impoundment. So there's no structure in the river to impound the flow of water. It's just run of river.
Okay.
The generation profile again is pretty steady throughout the day. The only change is seasonal changes for when there's water or not water in the river. Next slide, please. All right, now we're going to look at how does our portfolio change when we add these three contracts. Next slide, please. Looking at an annual average profile for our load and comparing it to our current supplies. So the x-axis here is an hour of the day for an average day across the entire year. And the y-axis is megawatts of either load or supplies in our portfolio. The black line is our load profile in 2025. And the black bars are our current portfolio, so all of our executed contracts. And then stacked on top, we're showing Nova in red. That's the largest project, so it's the most visible here. But there's also the small hydro project in blue and the Whitegrass geothermal project in green, which you can just barely see if you squint. So the Nova project will decrease our load during the middle of the day and increase our load in the evening peak and the morning peak. And the next slide shows a little more seasonal detail on this. So for an average day in the spring, summer, fall, or winter, how do these projects contribute to our portfolio and meeting our load? So you can see in the summer and the spring, the Nova project really helps decrease that excess generation we have during the solar hours. And in the fall and winter, we're smoothing out our supply shape to have more generation in the evening peak. All right, next slide. Just a note about how these projects fit with our strategic plan. Next slide. Procuring these projects is part of achieving our priority 1, designing our power portfolio that is sourced by 100% carbon-free energy by 2025 that aligns supply and demand on a 24/7 basis. And this specifically implements our power resources goal 1, which is to secure sufficient, low-cost, clean sources of electricity that meet our priorities while ensuring reliability and meeting regulatory mandates. So next slide, please. I think now we'll have each of the 3 recommendations. So the first recommendation is for the Nova project. So we're recommending you approve the resolution delegating authority to the CEO to execute an energy storage and service agreement for an energy storage project with Nova Power LLC and any necessary ancillary documents with a power delivery term of 15 years, starting at the delivery commencement date on or about August 1st, 2024, in an amount not to exceed $153 million.
So moved.
Okay,
John
I have a
Diggins,
motion to approve the Nova contract. Is there a second?
John Diggins seconds.
Okay, I think I got that from Harvey. Let me just see if there are any questions. Does anyone, I have a question from Tiger Jazz. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if we need to ask for public comment specifically.
No, we do. And that's exactly what I was going to do right after your question.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, before we move on this item, let me see if there's any public comments on this contract or any of the presentation that Sarah just so expertly provided. I don't see any public comment. Okay.
Sure, I have one comment on the presentation.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I just want to thank Sarah. Really standing up, filling some big shoes here at PCE, doing a great job. I feel very confident with the presentation, her grasp of the knowledge, and the direction that we're taking with these particular. I wish we were a little better, a little more firm on the labor, on both of the ones that mention labor. But these are very small projects comparatively, and there are lots of mitigating factors leading to those difficulties. I know that there are other more fertile grounds to do better on that with. So I look forward to seeing this passed. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments? I don't see any other comments. We've got a motion and a second. Why don't we do a roll call?
Okay. San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough, Hillsborough, I'll circle back, Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, Woodside, and circling back to Hillsborough.
Yes.
Thank you. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And Sarah, do you want to present the next motion?
Yes, thank you. So the next recommendation is that the board approve the resolution delegating authority to the CEO to execute a power purchase and sale agreement for renewable supply with Whitegrass Number 2 LLC and any necessary ancillary documents with a power delivery term of 20 years, starting at the commercial operation date on or about December 31st, 2024, in an amount not to exceed 109 million.
Okay, and let me see if anyone has any comment on this. I will just say, I'm really happy to see, I know it's a very small geothermal contract, and I know the next one, the hydro contract, is also very small, but these are very stable production forces, and I'm, while the bar graph on the geothermal, as stated by Sarah, is very boring, we should all recognize it's incredibly valuable to have that steady base load power. It's really important. So the more we can get of that, I know it's expensive, the more we can justify the expense for, the better.
Mr. Chair, in this business, a flat line is a good thing.
That's right. Can I get a motion to approve the Whitegrass contract?
I'll move approval. Dave Pine.
Thank you,
Second,
Dave.
Romero.
Thank you, Carlos. We could do a roll call, that'd be great.
Sorry about that. San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yeah.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, and Woodside. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have one final contract, which is the small hydro contract.
That's right. So the third recommendation we have for you tonight is to approve the resolution delegating authority to the CEO to execute the power purchase and sale agreement for renewable supply with Snow Mountain Hydro LLC and any necessary ancillary documents with a power delivery term of 15 years, starting on January 1st, 2024, in an amount not to exceed 13 million.
Okay, and can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, but I do have a question on this.
Okay, please ask the question.
So this is it's a hydro project on a river, and I'm sorry, full disclosure, I missed the procurement meeting. Forgive me all, where I'm sure this was discussed, but are there any issues around either fish migratory patterns or any other environmental impacts that an unimpounded facility like this creates? Are there mitigations that maybe would be helpful to understand?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. So this project, one of the reasons why it doesn't have any generation in the summer is because there are minimum flow requirements for the river. So the project can only generate if flow in the river is above a certain level. And that's to provide habitat and flows for fish. And then I believe the project also has a fish screen, which means when it diverts water, the fish are protected from accidentally getting taken into the diversion. And I will note that these all these environmental mitigations that the project has are operating and are in compliance with all their requirements.
Thank you, Sarah. So my motion stands.
Great.
A
And can I get
second.
it? That second was from Rick
Rick Bonilla.
Rick Bonilla, okay. And before we vote on it, let me just check one more time to make sure there isn't public comment. I don't see any public comment. If anyone has a comment from the board, I don't see any comment from the board. So if we could do a roll call, that'd be great.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo,
Yes.
South San Francisco, and Woodside. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I know that these contracts are complicated and technical, but truly, this is the heart of our business. We have to buy the energy to supply it. So these things are important, and the diversity is important. So it is 8:12, and in order to not back up our agenda to a ridiculous level in November, we're going to move forward with the DEAI item tonight. This is a very important item, so thank you everyone for hanging in and sticking with it. I think Shayna is going to present this.
Rick, I have one comment. Rick,
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that these three projects that we have just approved is the preview of the future, how our portfolio with abundant but intermittent resources like wind and solar would be strengthened or stiffened by having these kind of projects. So these kind of projects are very welcome in our portfolio. I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pradeep.
Great.
Go ahead, Shayna.
Thanks, Rick. So my name is Shayna. I'm going to be presenting the Diversity, Equity, Accessibility, and Inclusion, or DEAI policy adoption for you all tonight. Here's the agenda for tonight. I'll recap with some DEAI policy origins. I'll review the policy development and stakeholder review process. I'll provide you guys with an outline of the policy. The full policy was included in your packet for tonight. I'll then outline some key feedback that we incorporated and received from our stakeholder review process. And then I'll end with the CEC's recommendation and also the recommendation that we are proposing that the board takes tonight. Great. So I've discussed this slide in the past, but basically as a reminder, back in the summer of 2020, the CEC formed an equity working group after the murder of George Floyd. And they worked for several months on a draft statement of equity and inclusion, ultimately bringing that to our board of directors in January of 2021. At that meeting, our board of directors accepted the policy and then formed a board DEAI subcommittee, who we've been working with closely on this project, to direct staff to find a DEAI consultant for the development of a policy and an action plan for Peninsula Clean Energy. But these are the three main elements that were included in the original equity statement that the CEC brought to our board of directors. Peninsula Clean Energy commits to making anti-racism top of mind during decision-making. develop a means of tracking revenue and formulating a mechanism, qualitative and quantitative, that ensures accountability, pursue equity in energy generation and programs. So now I'll discuss the policy development and stakeholder review process. We received a draft statement, a draft policy from our consultant in late July that was based off of the CAC equity statement as that was the foundation for our DEI policy, and included themes from the needs assessment of our DEI project, which were the survey and interviews that we conducted in Q1 and Q2 of this calendar year. All of the board members were given the survey at that time in February. It also incorporated industry best practices because our consultant is an expert in this equity, creating policies like these. And we facilitated 3 workshops with our consultant to receive stakeholder feedback on the draft policy. One was with all of our staff on August 16th. One was with on August 19th with our board DEI subcommittee. And the third was on September 8th with our CAC community-based organizations in our broader community. And for the third workshop, our community outreach team, shout out to Vanessa and Kirsten, conducted outreach to our community partners to ensure robust participation in the workshop. We also had a temporary page on our website where we had a form where community organizations were directed to submit workshop on the policy if they could not make the workshop in person. And then also our consultant accepted written comments after each of these 3 workshops from each of these groups to incorporate them into our final policy. So we really tried to listen to all of our stakeholders during this process to make sure that we ended up with a policy that everyone was happy with. So I'll quickly go through a DEI policy outline. There are 7 key sections to this policy. The first is a commitment to DEI, which kind of outlines the why of why we're doing this, and speaks kind of our value statement in regards to diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. The second is the definition section that we have definitions for diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion in this section. The third is application, so who the policy applies to and who has roles and responsibilities to in administering the policy and implementing the policy. The fourth is details of policy. So this is the meatiest part of the policy, over a couple pages long. And in that section, we again reaffirm our DEI commitment. We talk about recruitment, promotions, and retention, onboarding, compensation and employee performance reviews, DEI learning and development, professional development, leadership and staff accountability, supplier diversity, accessibility, communications and outreach, and energy programs. For the 5th section, we then again reiterate which party is responsible for administering the policy and implementing the policy. In 6, we have a little bit more detail about policy administration, basically what will be monitored, how often we'll review the policy. And 7th is our communication of the policy, so how we will share the policy with our stakeholders. So now I'll move into some key feedback that we received throughout our 3 workshops and what we ended up implementing into our final draft policy that is included in your packet for tonight. So for the first section, we received feedback that many comments mentioned that the intention of the policy and its role in the organization was not clear at first. And so we added a clarifying statement was added to explain the difference between the DEI policy and the DEI action plan. And the DEI policy is what we're going to undertake for DEI initiatives, and the DEI action plan, which is forthcoming to you guys in the next several months, is the how. So those will be specific actions that we can take to implement this policy. So that's the main piece of feedback we incorporated there. For the definition section, we received feedback that in our definition of diversity, we weren't listing all the groups, and because we weren't listing all the groups, we were excluding some people. So we added the phrase "but is not limited to" include to make it a more inclusive definition. And then we also added the terms veteran status and neurodiversity to this definition. We also strengthened the accessibility definition in this section. In the application section, feedback in the section focused on the role of the board and other groups in regard to the policy. That was one of the key pieces of feedback we received from our community workshop, is what role will the board play in implementing this policy? So we added a roles and responsibilities subsection to this policy for all staff board and citizens advisory committee members and outlined the roles there. In the details of policy sections, for the first several sections, sections 4A through F, I won't read them all here, but they're on the screen. The primary edits were line edits to primarily improve clarity, reduce redundancy, and add specificity. There weren't any like key pieces that I wanted to highlight for those sections. In section 4G, leadership and staff accountability, we received feedback from our stakeholders that they wanted a stronger accountability mechanism. They wanted us to report out on DEI initiatives on a regular basis. And we didn't initially have that in the policy. So we added that back. We added that in. We added a semi-annual update to our board of directors on all of the DEI initiatives that our agency will undertake. And we're proposing that we do that on this annual retreat in September and then again in April. So a biannual update on all of our DEI initiatives. In section 4H, supplier diversity, feedback we received from our staff was that we didn't mention in the original policy enough about Proposition 209 and how that affects our procurement and limits our procurement, particularly in recruiting women and minority-owned businesses and how we can't grant preferential treatment to women and minority-owned businesses in our procurement. So we added in a section describing our Prop 209 limitations to this section. And for section I, accessibility, we received lots of comments regarding accessibility in different aspects. For example, ADA website compliance versus ADA accommodations in general for public meetings and meeting materials, and then training for staff in languages and translations. So we described different aspects of accessibility in this section, including training for PCE leadership to support employees with disabilities, accommodation requests, both internal and external, and also our website. So complying with ADA guidelines and web content accessibility guidelines or WCAG guidelines. So that's what we added to that policy, that section of this policy. And for section 4J, we added examples to provide clarity, greater clarity and understanding about how we will implement energy, how we will utilize an equity lens when developing and distributing communication and outreach materials. So some examples of that include providing outreach materials in languages needed to reach our target populations, using imagery that mirrors the diversity of the communities we serve, and using terminology that is gender neutral and respectful. And providing accommodations for people with disabilities and other accessibility methods. And for section K, energy programs, we originally in this section said that we will adopt policies, programs, and practices to achieve energy equity for low income and disadvantaged households. We originally said energy equity and energy democracy. We received feedback that from I think all three of our stakeholder groups that we presented to, they weren't clear what the term energy democracy means. And we also realized we didn't really know either. So we decided to drop energy democracy from that part of the policy and keep energy equity, which we're gonna work on a definition of energy equity in our action plan. So that is forthcoming. We also added the phrase fixed incomes to this section of the policy. So the sentence reads, these groups may include a disproportionate number of households on fixed incomes and people of color as they utilize a larger share of their income on energy bills, straining budgets and putting these households at a heightened risk of utility shutoffs during times of economic hardship. We also changed the phrase participate equitably in Peninsula Clean Energy programs to equitable access to Peninsula Clean Energy programs within this section. Partly is because we have some programs that are targeted at low income groups. So we felt that the latter phrase was more representative of what our intent of our programs are. So that wraps up our details of policy section. Thank you for staying with me on this. In section 5, party responsible for the policy, we added a reference back to our section 3A, referencing the roles and responsibilities of staff and leadership, the board of directors, and the citizens advisory committee members. We also introduced the notion of a DEI staff council, which currently consists of 4 staff members who are responsible for operationally implementing the policy throughout the organization. So we described the role of the DEI council in this section. For section 6, policy administration, it was originally called policy enforcement. Feedback that we received at our board DEI subcommittee workshop was that policy enforcement was a little bit too harsh of a phrase, and DEI work is coming from a place of love and growth. And so we didn't want to have it be have this harsh phrase in our policy. And I also believe the word policy administration is a little bit more accurate for this section as well. Feedback that we received from our community workshop is that community members were inquiring what exactly will be monitored and measured, what types of DEI initiatives will be monitored and measured. And we provided a clarifying statement here that the initiatives in the action plan will be monitored and measured. And we also referenced the semi-annual report out to the board that I referenced earlier, kind of that accountability metric that we added back in. We also received feedback from our community workshop that originally we were proposing to do an as-needed policy review. So we'd review it on an as-needed basis. There was concern that it would get pushed to the back burner if there wasn't a set time on when we needed to review the policy. So we changed this to an annual review. So we'll be reviewing the policy on an annual basis, screening for updates and making sure it is up to date and current. And then for the last section, communication of policy, we simplified the language in this section, just saying that we would post the policy on our website. It might ultimately be posted in multiple places. It remains to be seen how exactly we'll be portraying it on our website, but just simplified this language to make it easier for us to comply with it in the future. So that wraps up the feedback that was received from all of our stakeholder groups. Thank you for staying with me on that. If you want more detail, I have more detail and I can provide more detail, but I think this kind of summarizes, tried to take you through the journey of feedback that we received from our stakeholder groups here. I want to touch on the CAC recommendations that Cheryl touched on earlier in her CAC report. So we did have that CAC workshop for the policy review back in September, but we decided to bring the final draft policy, which is the version that is in your packet, back to the CAC at their October 13th meeting. And committee members were happy that we listened to them and they felt they were seen in the policy. And the committee members voted unanimously to recommend approval to the board of directors of the DEI policy as drafted. And I really want to pause here and celebrate this because they are the ones that initiated this for us way back when. And I'm really happy to have their stamp of approval on this important policy and as we're going into implementation phase. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then I'll leave you with the recommendation and welcome any questions or comments from committee members. But here's the recommendation again to adopt the diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion or DEI policy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Shana. I know you've worked really hard on this, Shana, and you did an excellent job in presenting it. This is a very important policy for us. Colleen, then Betsy.
Shana and everyone who worked on this, I'm just overwhelmed. It's an incredible amount of detail. And the fact that you incorporated so much of the detail in the suggestions is really to be applauded because words are very, very powerful. And you've paid attention to that in a very thoughtful and productive way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colleen. And I'd like to pause and recognize everyone who's worked on this with me because it's been a team effort. Certainly the DEI subcommittee members, all of them have been very useful. Our CAC, as I mentioned before, and then internally on staff, Kirsten Andrew Schwind, Cora Dino, Sean Marshall, and Jan for her leadership. I'd like to thank all of them because they all worked very hard on this as well.
Thank you. Betsy.
I just want to echo what Colleen said and say that this is a model policy and I'm very, very proud to be part of this organization. Thank you.
It's great to hear. Thank you, Betsy.
That's the truth. Sam.
Thank you. Shana, thank you so much for this very thorough report and a lot of information, but also very concise. I want to add my voice to yours and thank the CAC for being, so to speak, the champion of this initiative and bringing it forward to the entire board. I want to thank the staff, Shana and your team and everybody who was involved, not to miss our chair of the subcommittee, Donna Carlson, and everybody on the committee. A shout out for Michael Smith, who was part of this subcommittee and who's no longer with us on the board, but his contribution were immense as well. Our consultant did a phenomenal job. It really was a team effort. Everybody who was involved put their best effort in, and this is a result that we have. I believe it is something that we all can be proud of. I'm definitely proud of it. I'm thankful for being given the opportunity to participate and be part of this journey. I could tell you I have learned quite a bit, and hopefully this would be something that we continue to see it through and be a staple of what Peninsula Clean Energy is all about. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam. Donna.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam. Those were very gracious and kind words. And I fully agree with you between the staff, the CAC, and I also just want to recognize all the participants that were outside of PCE that stepped up. This is the basis from which we have a policy now. The next step that we're going to pursue is the action plan. So how do we get a policy into the real world? And then finally, there will be the reiterative process of making sure that, in fact, this is not just a binder shoved on a shelf, but it's actually invasive within every element of our organization, from hiring to implementation programs, billing, everything sort of reflects back onto this policy and the culture that we're building here as a board and as an organization to really, I think, in the CCA world, lead on this and set this policy up as an example. And so I think when we're also going and presenting our 24/7 papers and all of our other important papers around in conferences, I really hope that we'll maybe submit this work as also an example of important leadership that CCAs are doing in the state of California. I think it's probably as important as, showing how we're procuring energy, but showing that we're doing it in such a model way. I really look forward to phase 2 and then phase 3, and I'm incredibly honored and proud to be a part of it. And I thank the board for having the vision and the trust to let us hire this consultant and take the original work that we did, that the CAC did, around the one pager on George Floyd, and expand it into this incredibly comprehensive document. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Donna. I don't know where to start, but I'll say a couple things. One is some CCAs have had difficulty with their citizen advisory groups. I just feel so honored at the quality of leadership that's been provided by our CAC and of how the organization has responded to that leadership by first incorporating their suggestions into a very urgent and focused board activity, because this is absolutely a board issue, and the board completely embraced it. And the subcommittee is the best of the board. The subcommittee really took this issue on. And I think what Betsy said is how I feel. I just feel proud of being a part of an organization that takes this issue so seriously. And it's such a defining issue for us as a electricity organization, but as Americans. It's absolutely a defining issue. And we all need to see this happen every spot in our lives. And I'm just glad that we are doing it. It's just so important. I feel proud of it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And Donna, you gave remarkable leadership, but every single person on your committee, and the shout out to Michael Smith is so well deserved. I think I've talked to everybody at some point on your committee about this, and I just feel honored to have that leadership provided and that guidance, because it helps all of us assess our lives, and this is important. Jan,
Carlos has his hand raised. Why don't you have him go first?
okay, go ahead, Carlos.
Thank you, Jan. I would have gladly have gone after you, but yeah, I also want to acknowledge Donna's role in this and you know, corralling a bunch of us to get into it, involved in it, and also want to thank Shana for all of the work that she's done, also to get us to respond to emails and to say this is important and you know, have us participate in as meaningful a way as we individually could. I would agree with Donna that you know, this is just the beginning of this road, of this trip. The action plan needs to get produced next. But ultimately, I think the words on the page need to eventually reflect who PCE is in terms of our contractors, in terms of our compensation, in terms of, you know, who is working within the agency. I mean, representation truly matters. And I hope that what this document does and the action plan moving forward kind of allows us to have those important and sometimes difficult conversations when reflecting back on, are we meeting the intent of this document and the ultimate goal of kind of creating an equitable, you know, fair and inclusive workplace. So as long as I'm on the board, I want to certainly continue to participate, but this is certainly not the end of the road. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Jan.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Shana for her commitment and dedication and diving into this work with great enthusiasm and openness to learning and really becoming an expert in this area. And of course, also to Kirsten for her thoughtfulness and her passion for this work, and to Cora and Sean, who are part of our internal DEAI council. And I wanted you all to know I had put in my CEO report, which I can't find right now, but at our all in-person, all staff meeting last week, it was dedicated to DEAI training. So we spent 4 hours of whole staff working with Darylyn Swift from Premier OD, one of the other consultants who had bid on this work, but who we had identified as someone who could be really excellent in training. And it was really great to have everyone together and to really focus on what are the definitions, what does all this mean, and how are we going to incorporate this as part of our work every day at PCE. So thank you, especially to Shana and Kirsten for really making that happen. And then also I want to thank the board subcommittee led by Donna's commitment to this work and the other subcommittee members, Sam, Rod, Michael, and Carlos, who spent many hours in meetings, selecting the consultant, and then more recently reviewing the materials that have been put together. So, you know, we have an awesome staff, as you can see, in all aspects of this organization. And this is just yet another where we're doing great work, groundbreaking work in the CCA space. So thank you.
Jan.
Okay, great. If there's any other comments, you can raise your hand through the reactions button, but let me see if there's any public comment on this. Is there any public comment? I don't see any. Can I get a motion to adopt the DEAI policy?
So moved. Romero.
I'll second.
Thank you, Carlos and Donna. If we could do a roll call, that would be great.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
Yes.
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
thank you, San Bruno,
Yes.
San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo, South San Francisco, and Woodside. And motion passes. Thank you.
Great. And we have one more item, which is the approval of addition of e-electric rate tariff.
Leslie will be making this presentation.
I'm going to be so fast about this, guys, I promise, but I will also answer any questions that anyone has. So let's go to the next slide. So what is ELECT? ELECT, which is also known as Electric Home, that's what PG&E has decided to use as its marketing and sort of street name for this program. It's a new rate schedule that's been under development for quite some time, but will be offered starting December 1st. That's intended to encourage customers to adopt qualifying electric technologies. So it's a rate schedule that is intended to be better aligned with folks who are on a journey to do home electrification. The rate plan would apply to all of the energy use coming from the home. And to qualify for ELECT, the customer has to be using electricity for any of the following measures. It could be EV charging, it could be energy storage, which like a whole home battery, like a Powerwall. Could be for electric heat pump, for water heating and climate control. So you have to be utilizing one of these things to be eligible to take service under e-electric. Next slide. So a little bit of a timeline. Now, like I said, this has been under development for quite some time. So I'm just compressed this down to what's happened in this last year and what going forward as this rate rolls out. About a year ago, the CPUC issued their final decision on ELECT and the timeline for rollout. PG&E filed a series of advice letters about it. Right now we're in between the 9/1 date where PG&E filed the Tier 2 advice letter, which had the details of the tariff in it, and what's called as the illustrative rate. So the rate that PG&E is using right now until it's updated in 11. So next month with their updated Tier 1 rate schedule, and then that will be the rate that will be available starting December 1. December 1, phase 1 of this offering goes into effect, where ELECT will become available to customers who are utilizing any of those technologies that I mentioned previously. They also have to be non-NEM customers. So ELECT is not going to be available for anyone taking NEM service right away. So this is first going to be released to non-NEM customers starting December 1st. The next phase be offered to NEM 1 and NEM 2 customers who are not complex NEM customers. So these are customers that just have a solar system, not solar and storage. PG&E has a lot of IT updates to do internally to account for this new rate schedule to be incorporated for NEM customers. And so that's why they are breaking this rollout to NEM customers out into multiple phases, allowing just the straight NEM customers, straight solar customers without solar and storage to be enrolled sooner, because there's a little bit less of an update that needs to happen there. In the meantime, they're also going to be working on some comparison tools and have told us that they plan to roll out a DER calculator, which would help customers understand how this rate might interplay with something like a solar plus storage system or a battery backup system in their solar system before the phase 3 is launched right now, which is planned for January of 2024. I think some of those timelines potentially could get pushed. They would have to go back to the CPUC and ask for an extension on it, but
It depends on what happens with the IT, but this is the plan right now of the rollout and availability to customers. Next slide. So a little bit, what is eLectric? Some of the features for eLectric. It's going to have the same seasonality as all the other rate schedules. So summer seasons are 4 months, June through September. Winter is everything else, October through May. The time of use period for eLectric, this rate is actually going to look very much like EV2A, which is the current whole home EV charging rate that's available to customers, with the peak hours being 4 to 9 p.m. every day, partial peak from 3 to 4 and 9 to midnight, and then off-peak times is all the other times available in the day. There's also going to be the primary difference between this rate schedule and EV2A is the fixed charge. So there is a monthly fixed charge for ELEC, which is $15 a month. That $15 a month is meant to offset some of the transmission and delivery charges. And so the per kilowatt hour bundled rate is a little bit lower for eLectric than it is for EV2A. For those customers taking ELEC who also have a solar system, that $15 will act as the minimum delivery charge. So there won't be an additional minimum delivery charge on top of that $15 fixed monthly charge. And the energy charges in season are going to be very similar to other TOU periods. Like I said, it almost is identical to EV2A. Go to the next slide. So I borrowed this graphic from our friends at PG&E. They made this several months ago and shared this in a presentation. They said I could use it. So this is a comparison of eLectric with some of the other primary residential rate schedules that are available. So like I said here, you have eLectric and EV2A. The TOU periods align exactly. The main difference being the per kilowatt hour charge. The figures here are PG&E bundled rates, so don't pay too much attention to them, other than to note, the differentials between, summer and winter, and peak and off peak, and how they work together a little bit. And then you've got the ETOUC and E1, which are two other primary residential rates that are available. As you can see, both of those they're very different rates. The big difference between ETOUC, E1, and then the eLectric and EV2A, TOUC and E1 both have additional charges for when you get into an excessive use or a high use case. They have the lower cost of electricity that's at that baseline level, and then they have a higher cost that's sort of tier 1 and tier 2 charges for kilowatt hours. You don't have that in the EV2A and eLectric, which are more aligned to higher use or consistent higher use electric usage volume from the home. Let's go to the next slide. So again, these are programs for eligibility. So what do you need in order to be able to sign up for eLectric? And what are the other things you could be potentially enrolled with PG&E and still also take this rate? You have to have one of these technologies, either an electric vehicle, energy storage, or electric heat pump in your home for water heating or heating and cooling. This is compatible with medical baseline or care and fair. I've got to start here just to flag that those discounts are taken on the PG&E side of the bill, so we don't have a separate discount for those programs. PG&E incorporates that discount on their side. You could also be enrolled in any of these other programs, the Solar Choice and Smart Rate and Regional Renewable Energy Choice. Those are PG&E only programs, so those wouldn't be for our customers, but if you were a PG&E customer on this rate, you could be enrolled in those. We do offer the DAC GT program, and we will be offering somewhere down the line the CSGT program. So those are both compatible with this. And the California climate credit does not impact this, so you still get the same climate credit if you're on this program. Things that are not necessarily compatible with this program, PG&E's highlighted their employee discount. You don't get an additional discount for being on this rate if you're a PG&E employee. And then some of this home area network for bill forecasting and marginal price. This is a special feature that PG&E has for some advanced forecasting for energy use in the home. Right now, it's only available for certain rate schedules, and electric is not one of the ones that it's available for. This might be something that gets developed down the line as the IT part of this gets built out a little bit more, but right now that's not on the roadmap for them to offer. Go to the next slide. And then right here I have, we did some of the preliminary e-electric rates. So this is based off of the illustrative rate schedule that PG&E has out now from September 1st. And so we had to do some calculations in order to get the ball rolling for Calpine to do the programming. These are not going to be the final rates. We will recalculate these rates once PG&E releases their final advice letter in November, and we'll recalculate them using our standard formula that we use, where we take the PG&E generation rate and then factor in the PCIA rates, different PCIA for Los Banos and San Mateo County, so that in the end, both of these territories end up paying the same total generation cost for the rate, but the PCE rate is a little bit different because the PCIA is different for both Los Banos and San Mateo County. But these are the illustrative rates as they stand right now for the PCE generation rate. They will change though once PG&E releases that next advice letter in November. Next slide. And so what we're asking for tonight is a recommendation. We're recommending that you approve a resolution to add the e-electric rate option for Peninsula Clean Energy customers to mirror PG&E's offering of e-electric rate, and that this be available starting December 1st when PG&E's rates become available to customers December 1st. Is there any questions?
Okay, I don't see any questions at this time. Is there any public comment on this? I don't see any public comment. Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Tiger Jazz Big Stick.
Thank you, Tiger Jazz. And a second?
Second, Hale, Redwood City.
Thank you.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
San Mateo County,
Yes.
Atherton,
Yes.
Belmont, Brisbane,
Yes.
Burlingame,
Yes.
Colma, Daly City, East Palo Alto,
See,
Foster City,
Yes.
Half Moon Bay,
Yes.
Hillsborough,
Yes.
Los Banos, Menlo Park,
Yes.
Millbrae,
Yes.
Pacifica,
Yes.
Portola Valley, Redwood City,
Yes.
San Bruno, circle back, San Carlos,
Yes.
San Mateo, South San Francisco, Woodside, and circling back for San Bruno.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. The last item on the agenda is board member reports. Does anyone have a report?
Rick, I just want to say really quick, hopefully if you guys are coming to the Council of Cities dinner tomorrow night, it's at the beautiful community center, all electric in Burlingame tomorrow. So we have room for people. And if anybody didn't RSVP but wants to come or just even come and see it, please let us know. We're going to be so happy to tour you all tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing you.
Great. Any other board member reports? Okay, everybody, thank you very much for hanging in. I know there was a lot of information in this meeting. And just as a reminder, our next meeting is the third Thursday of November rather than the 4th. See you all then.
Bye, everyone.